Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Genisus Esports channel for the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship, round 11 here at Monza, the penultimate round of what has been an absolutely scintillating championship. My name is Dave Christie, and joining me in the commentary box, as always, is a very warm welcome to the one, the only Mr. Tapelo Merioli. Tapelo, welcome aboard. We're at Monza. The chaos, the memes, the banter. Are we actually going to get it here tonight, do you think?
Look, it's been such a long season that I think every time we've tried to kind of preempt an incident or try to speak about something, nothing happens. So we've all heard the memes about Monza. We've all seen the videos. We've all been part of lobbies where things go wrong. I have a feeling we might not see that tonight just because we've spoken about it already. But fingers crossed for a bit of argy-bargy here and there, but overall we should get a clean race, and I hope it's fairly exciting because this track has a tendency to put up really great races.
I like your thinking, Tapelo. If we say it's not going to happen, then maybe it will. But this is the calendar so far then. Round 11, 20th December. That means that after Christmas, we've got one round left. We go over to the United States of America for Watkins Glen. That is going to be absolutely fantastic. 2 rounds then. We've got Monza here tonight, Watkins Glen next week. But this is how the championship shapes up as well, because there is so much to decide in these final 2 rounds as well. We've seen it all coming up to a head so very, very quickly, and the points could not be tighter right now. George Boothby leading the championship by just 13 points ahead of Luke Whitehead, but Tariq Adam coming up very, very fast indeed, 236 points. So it is all to play for between those 3 drivers. Then it's the best of the rest. Luke Addison in P4, Cody Sherritt down to P5, Abe Santima dropping down to P6 now, and Christian Duploy actually rejoining us tonight. Saw that on Twitter. He'll be out there tonight down in P7. Giovanni Porzio in 8th, Christian Fenter in 9th, and then Daniel de Matos Preto in 10th position. That's how the top 10 look for tonight. Good evening to everyone on the YouTube chat. To Ethereality and to Giovanni Porzio, wishing everyone luck as well ahead of tonight's race. So, as we said, it is Monza in the heart of Italy, 3.6 miles, one of my favourite tracks to drive because it's just absolute chaos all the time. It's a very straightforward track to pick up, very straightforward track to learn, but again, qualifying going to be very, very important here, especially given that we've got the 14 cars here. We've got the top 3 that we're interested in, but interestingly, Luke Whitehead only fast enough at the moment here to get down into P6. We'd imagine, Tapelo, that he needs to get himself right up there.
Yeah, and I think now that you've mentioned it, could we be seeing the spanner in the works, so to speak, for that top 3 challenge? Because look, they've spoken about it throughout the whole season. The McLaren should look strong on this circuit. It is high speed, and we've seen how good the McLaren is in those kind of situations. So far this season, we've seen that the strengths of the Lamborghinis have been under braking in the more technical rotations of the car. So maybe it might be a bit down in this power circuit. But look, such has been the form of Luke Whitehead this season. I don't think he's the kind of driver you can count him out, even if he's got that bit of a disadvantage, but he can remain competitive in a race like this. And look, I love Monza. You're right in saying it's a fairly simple circuit to get right. Yes, the nuances will start to catch up to you, but it's a very interesting circuit as we follow these cars as they do their qualifying laps. Currently on board with Tariq Adam going past the start-finish straight, heading into the major pinpoint of this circuit, the Variante del Rettifilo, the opening chicane. Good on the right. You can use some curbs here just to get your car settled and maximize those track limits. And as he accelerates out of the chicane into Curva Grande, sometimes a place where you can lose your car, which gets me every time because I don't understand how that happens, but it does, and that's on my bingo card for today. You might see something into the Curva Grande as you head into the second chicane, the Della Raja chicane. Again, track limits can be very tricky here. You can use some of them. You can go really abuse the curb, so to speak, as we head out into the Lesmos. Lesmo 1, Lesmo 2, Very crucial part of the circuit here, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, if you've never driven the circuit before, because that is where you make up a lot of time. If you get it wrong, it's disastrous. If you get it right, you get a lot of speed, top speed, heading down into the Ascari chicane. It is a high speed circuit, low downforce, so you do want to maintain as much momentum into the corners as we see Tariq Adam going flat out into the Ascari chicane. Gets it well, goes a bit wide on the exit, but I think that should be right. That's okay. That's the kind of line you kind of take on this track, so you can maintain that momentum and not lose it as you head into the straight, going down into the Curva Parabolica. Very tricky to get right because you do want to maintain your speed. You do not want to go too wide. You will lose the lap time for this lap and the next lap because you do get the advantage there. And across the finish line for Tariq Adam, goes second with that lap. Very well done. I think there's a bit more time to be found there. Just maybe get it a bit cleaner as we saw getting out of the Ascari chicane, but very promising for the race going forward for Tariq, David.
Absolutely is, and the thing with that, you were mentioning there, Tapello, that it's a momentum-based circuit. Now, obviously, I say that an awful lot about almost every single circuit, but even more so here, because a mistake early on in the first part of the lap can cost you absolutely massively by the time that you get up to that Ascari chicane, and then you've lost what was maybe 1 or 2 tenths of a second you've lost. Suddenly it becomes 1 to 2 seconds, and by the time you get to that chicane, your lap is absolutely cooked. And in all honesty, now with 50 seconds left to go, these drivers are going to have to get a move on here. I'm very, very surprised to see Luke Whitehead down there in 5th position at the moment. I was expecting to see that car up, but would be on another level at the moment with that time, as we see Reginald McLaney here in the number 22 McLaren just now, as we cut to the homing missile, Jimmy Home himself, 147.067, currently a second off the pace right now, down in 9th position. What can he do across the line? It is not an improvement for Jimmy Holmes, so he stays down in 9th position. But this is the man right now, George Boothby, currently leading the championship, and he's coming out of that final corner just now, that very long right-hander of Parabolica. And for a minute there, I did panic thinking that he was about to send it into the wall, but of course that's just the eSport line as the number 20 goes across the line. 145.977 is still the fastest lap, so it does look like Cody Sherritt going to go and be one of the final cars to head across, but it is confirmed that George Boothby is in provisional pole at the moment. Tariq Adam with that fantastic lap that we were on board then, as what can Cody Sherritt do? He comes round Parabolica for the final time here in qualifying for the penultimate rounds of the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship, and Cody Sherritt does a 146.705, so it's not faster than his previous fast time there. And well, Tapello, any of those times or any of those positions jumping out to you or giving you a surprise at all?
Look, I think the biggest surprise has to be Luke Whitehead, currently in 5th position, and I don't think that will change anytime soon as he's done his final lap. Epsom Tima actually with a very decent lap that kind of we haven't noticed so far, beginning the race in 4th position. Actually, he goes up to 2nd.
Wow.
As I speak about him. So another brilliant lap there. Curse of the commentator be damned. Epson Tima said, I'm going to show you something tonight. So that's very interesting for this race, David. As we've seen so far, sometimes we saw with Luke Whitehead in the previous round, starting in front and just getting that first gap in the first 5 laps just allows you to choose your race and just do it more comfortably. But with the front 7 a bit muddled up, as differently to what we've seen so far, it will be interesting to see how drivers that tend to prefer a strong start, like Luke Whitehead, as we've seen in the previous rounds, how he will cope with starting a bit down into the field and, dare I say, with a bit of a deficit in top speed on his car. We'll wait to see how that is in race pace, but it will be interesting how he navigates the opening 5-10 minutes of this race.
Oh, for sure. And that's the other thing as well, because obviously the meta for the Assetto Corsa Competizione since the 1.9 update has been that the McLaren and the Lamborghini are the cars to have right now. They are by far, in a way, the sort of dominant forces that you see during qualifying. But obviously, maybe Monza proving here that it's more the McLaren that benefits more from that than the Lamborghini, and that might explain why we're seeing seeing Luke Whitehead's away down there. And I say away down there, I mean, it's still P5, it's still a really good qualifying time, but considering how important this final 2 rounds are, you'd really want to be a little bit further up. Either way, let's take you through your penultimate grids here for the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship rounds 11 at Monza. And on pole position is George Boothby. Joining him on the front row is Abe Santima. Row 2 is going to be Tariq Adam in third, and then Cody Sherritt in 4th position. Row 3 is going to be Luke Whitehead then fighting for the championship in P5 alongside Luke Addison in P6. It's then Christian Duploy joining us again here this week on row 4 in 7th position in the number 6 Ferrari, alongside Christian Fenter in the number 16 McLaren in 8th position. Row 5 is the homing missile himself, Jimmy Holm, in the number 2 Ferrari in 9th position, alongside Bayer in that number 38 McLaren on P10. Musa joins us in row 6 on 11th position in the number 4 BMW, and then it is Gottschalk in the 31 McLaren. We saw Mitsulaney during qualifying in the 22 McLaren, starting on row 7 in P13, and then it is Stein in the number 19 Bentley in P14 at the end of the field then. So the cars are ready. Well, one's disappeared as Bayer has decided to head back to the pits. He didn't get... now, that's actually a very common thing to happen. What that is he's been in his setup menu as the cars are ready to go. So he'll have to start from pit lane, and that's a bit of an oopsie. Although, with it being Monza, that might be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Monza is one of those circuits where you want to avoid the opening lap as much as possible. But again, curse of the commentator, fingers crossed, something does happen. We don't have the situation where we say something is going to happen and nothing happens. But again, fairly interesting. You know, we're seeing some new guys coming in. For example, Musa coming in with a car that we haven't seen much of this season, the BMW M4. And it will be interesting to see how that does on race pace, because we've spoken about that so many times this season. You get drivers that are really good in qualifying. They can get a quick lap because they need to maximize essentially one lap, you know, and they can be very good at that. But then you get to race pace and you see that sometimes they struggle, you know, they can't maintain that fast pace for 10-20 minutes, and even setups can play a role in that. So it will be interesting to see some of the new guys that are coming in, some of the new cars that we're going to see as well, and dare I say, just how well these cars will hold up. Because as much as this is a fairly simple layout of a circuit to get right, it can also be a very disastrous circuit, as we're going to start a drinking game for this round, ladies and gentlemen. The slipstream. The slipstream is always important, no matter which simulator arcade game you play. If it has Monza, the slipstream is your friend, and you want by all means to stay in touch with the car in front of you, just to maximize on that slipstream and keep in touching distance. Because once you fall out, you start to lose pace, you start to overdrive, you overwork your tires, you just lose momentum, you lose form, and then you start falling back faster and faster throughout the race, David.
Yeah, I could not agree more with you. I thought when you said drinking games, I was getting all excited thinking we were going to be talking about the big bad Bentley down there in P13. That is my dark horse for the win. I think that boat can just sail the tides here at Monza and just slip on through. I don't think that'll actually happen, but my God, I'd love to see it. What I'm kind of predicting is going to happen, though, is what we've seen all season. George Boothby, I think, will be held to it for a couple of laps and then just be absolutely unleashed. He's been on a different level this season, so we'll certainly wait to see what is happening. But the car's coming through Ascari now on their pole, on the pole lap, on their positioning lap. They're getting themselves all sorted out, and of course there will be no collision through this first part of the formation lap. That's the one that I was trying to look for, but couldn't quite find it. But during that part, the cars can kind of slip through each other. So if you do see that, don't worry about it just now. But when they get to the Parabolica, that's when the cars will be going 2 by 2. So we got a lovely shot here of, that is not George Boothby, that is Bayer in the number 30 in pit lane. So don't worry, that is not your race leader into pit lane. That's a gorgeous looking livery on that one. I wonder, I'm presuming that's going to be a stock livery. We'll come back to that because the penultimate rounds of the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship here at Monza, round 11, is about to get underway. 60-minute race with a mandatory pit stop for fuel and tyres. George Boothby on pole position alongside Abe Santima, David Christie and Tapelo Merioli here in the commentary box, bringing you all of the action. You're not going to miss a single thing here tonight. So the car's ready, 7 rows, 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, as we get ready for the second to last time this season to dance here at Monza. Away we go, green flag, brilliant start from Boothby, brilliant start from Santima though, around the outside. At number 9, McLaren then, as you've got the Lambo trying to get in as well. You've got Tariq Adam trying to make a move there, but that is going to be George Boothby taking the lead of the race as he does. And again, that is a fairly orderly first corner through that first chicane there. Now, what we normally see from this point on is the fact that Abe Santima will be usually too busy watching out for Tariq Adam and for the Lambo up there as well, Luke Whitehead. And there we go, Santima's gone wide. That's going to allow Tariq Adam and Luke Whitehead to potentially take that position. So again, just watching this early opening stint to the lap here, and Tapelo, it's all gone wrong for Abe Santima, and everything's going right for George Boothby, it would seem.
Yeah, most definitely. And we spoke about getting that perfect start just to ease away from the pack, just to avoid problems, because we know how big of a pinch point turn 1 is at Monza, as we follow on with Christian Venter in the number 16 McLaren, looking good for the overtake. Just a bit of contact. I don't think that will be too big a problem because Musa didn't lose the back end of that car because of the contact, but I'm sure the stewards will be paying attention, trying to get the drivers to keep it clean as possible as we keep following on. Fairly alright start from everyone. Again, I did see a bit of cars going off track in the Retafio chicane at the start of the race, but looking good so far. Christian Venter should get the run going around Parabolica, as we saw the BMW of Musa just run a bit wide into Parabolica. Already you see the effect of the slipstream. The McLaren looking strong again in a straight line, already side by side with Musa as they head down into the first chicane. Always tricky to decide where you want to be. Do you want to be on the outside or the inside, as we see here braking into turn 1. Christian Venter pulling the move. Should he hold position? Very well done there. Kept it clean, no contact. Positioned his car perfectly. Gets the drive out of the chicane right into Curva Grande, as we see a car into the pit lane already. That is Mitileni back on circuit with a challenge between Jimmy Holm and Christian Deploy. A bit of pressure for Christian Deploy here. It's all about how you maintain that pressure, because we've seen so far drivers have split themselves into groups. Look, they don't plan for it, but it's happened in the season where we see 2 or 3 cars bunch themselves together and they will battle it out for 20 minutes and then we switch over to another group. So I think we're seeing that already here. Again, we've spoken about the slipstream being important, and that will force drivers to hold position sometimes, because it might not be worth overtaking if you can stay behind and maintain race pace because of the advantages of the slipstream. David, as we can see here, George Boothby currently in first place, looking comfortable. I think 1.3 seconds ahead of the nearest car in the form of Tariq Adam. So he's done what he needed to do, get that gap within the first 2-3 laps.
What a fantastic couple of opening laps that we've had just now. It's been a thrilling start to this race here. As you said, George Boothby already set his stall out. He's in front, pushing as hard as he possibly can. But this little battle has been very, very interesting indeed. You saw Christian Venter there with a really, really intelligent bit of driving, getting that overtake done, just overshooting the pair of them here into turn 1 and getting that position done. Now, Moat Musa here fighting with Gutschalk down into turn one, late onto the brakes there, and that's a little bit of contact from the two of them. That for me is just hard but firm racing, as Musa gives a little bit of a love tap onto the back end to signal his disapproval, but that was fair and square from Gottschalk in that 31 McLaren. Get that moved on the run down to start the second lap there. Roland Stein though in the Bentley has just, I believe, just went straight on into that opening curve there, and of course you can see frantically sawing at the wheels, I believe Stein on either a gamepad or a keyboard and mouse right now. So he's making his way around. Now, what we did see is viewers that have got an eagle eye would have spotted Mittelini in the number 22 McLaren actually going straight on at Ascari and bouncing off the wall. That was the car that we saw into pit lane a little bit later on in that lap there. He's actually come a cropper again at the exit of Ascari. That's another moment there. So not getting the hang of that corner at all. Either that or Mittelini might be just pulling to the side there, but I think that is it. However, let's have a look at Bayer. So Bayer started from pit lane and is now fighting with Stein. Always late on the brakes there, but Stein just manages to get that going here. And Bayer drives round the outside of Stein, and the number 19 Bentley gets to tell the tale another day. This fight's still going on between Mats Musa here in that number 4 BMW and Gottschalk. This is going to be the BMW's one to win here, surely, with that drive down, with that slipstream that Tapello was talking about through the past couple of laps here. They're going to be side by side going down the start finish straight there. I think McLaren will have the upper hand, but the BMW just tries to drive right round the outside, but it can't get itself broken in time. And a little bit of a contact there onto the back end of Gottschalk, and yeah, that's a shame that it ended up like that. But the 31 gets going again. Tapel, you always knew that something had to give with those two. It was, you know, they were just pushing as hard as they can there, and it's a shame that it ended like that. As Abe Santima makes his way through the first and second of the Lesmos here then, in that number 9. Currently up in P3, so this is it's a bit of what could have been for Abe Santima here. He was into P2 and again went very deep into the first of the chicane, the second of the chicanes, and ended up having to give that position to Tariq Adam. Tariq Adam, of course, is going to take that with open arms and open hands at the moment. As just behind him, you've got the Ferrari. I think that is Jimmy Holm, the homing missile. So Fencer up into P8, I believe, because that means that Jimmy Holm is... Oh no, sorry, excuse me. Jimmy Holm's just in front of him. It was Christian Deploy. I was getting a little bit mixed up there. Although I'm not sure how I managed to get a... Oh, that's Tim Bayer getting it all wrong at Ascari as well. I'm not sure how I managed to get a McLaren and a Ferrari mixed up. However, yeah, well, that's absolutely fine as we go back to Jimmy Holm and this fight with Christian Deploy going into turn 1. As back with this fight for P7, 8 and 9, Tim Bayer is into the pit lane from 13th position. Again, that will possibly have been as a result of that contact into Ascari. As I'm hearing a slight wince from our broadcast team, so I'm going to presume that is a replay that is getting queued up from the incident that happened into Ascari. Here we go then. It's on the curbs. The curbs are always brutal here. Unsettles the car into the gravel. Bang! And the steering is gone. That is, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got a Lego set coming for you at Christmas, that is how you rapidly disassemble it in record quick time. Send it in a wall at 120 miles an hour. Goodness me. Although with some Christmases gone past, that's exactly what's happened to some of my Lego sets when I've got a little bit frustrated trying to build them, just launch it off the wall. By the by though, 50 minutes still left to go here, and the homing missile Jimmy Holm is coming into the Parabolica for the final time. Christian Deploy just ahead of him. So George Boothby still in the lead of the race then. Tariq Adam ahead of Abe Santima. That's your top three just now. Luke Whitehead on the back end. So again, what we're seeing here is Abe Santima just not able to cut it race pace-wise. At the moment, he is dropping back quite quickly, but this is the resurgence that we needed to see from Luke Whitehead as well, from that Veloci Vext car in that 55 right now. He needed to push, he needed to charge. And yeah, good to see that he is able to keep on firing things through as much as he can. So realistically, he needs to get ahead of George Boothby to minimise that point deficit that we will see through the race just now. But this is Christian Fenter then. Again, onto the tail of Jimmy Holm. So the homing missile coming under a real barrage, a real artillery of pressure right now from the Genisus Esports driver as they come through the second Lesmo. This is on the run up then to the Ascari chicane, and this is one of my favourite bits because it just sets up that long back stretch here. Side by side then coming into Ascari. What's going to happen here? Holmes a little bit nervous there, clambers all over the curves there. That's going to slow down both cars. They exit and on the run down now. This is the question: what has Fenter got in the bucket here for the McLaren right now? He moves to the inside into the Parabolica, and again it's uncertainty from both drivers here that are catching both of them out. That's sending them backwards. That's meaning that Christian Deploy, who was under pressure from Jimmy Holm, hasn't got anything to worry about now. He's now 4.1 seconds to the good of this little fight right now, so he is laughing himself silly at the moment. Is it going to be a move down into turn one though? Christian Fenter has a little look onto Jimmy Holm, can't quite make anything stick though. So again, strategy is going to be another factor that we have to start thinking about tonight. Drivers having to take that pit stop, having to take fuel and tyres. As it's good evening to Shaba Mashigo, saying good luck at turn one, gentlemen. Absolutely. I think they took all of your luck that you were giving them, and they used it very, very wisely, because it was a very good turn one nonetheless. As Christian Fenter then comes out of the chicane on the run down to the first of the two Lesmos. Goes a little bit wide, and you have to be so careful when you use that grass on the outside there, because one, it will potentially trigger the track limits. But two, also it's very, very unstable out there. Very easy to over-rotate your car. Meanwhile, back with Luke Whitehead. And that looked like Tariq Adam actually going very, very wide indeed out of Ascari. It was Tariq Adam actually. That lost a lot of time there, because that gap is now under a second between the two of them. So out of Parabolica, and the Lamborghini then chasing down Abe Santima, wanting to get that third position. We've got a yellow flag out as Daniel Gottschalk in the McLaren has a huge moment coming out of Ascari there, gets the car going again, but I think there's some significant damage to that McLaren just now, as here comes Christian Fenter onto the Ferrari again. Dips out very, very early on. I think he would be better just staying behind that car in front and trying to get whatever slipstream he can. And Daniel Gottschalk brings out the yellow flag again. I think that car is absolutely broken. That will be another one going into pit lane very, very shortly indeed. As we are still just 45 minutes away from resolving this penultimate round of the championship here. George Boothby in the lead of Tariq Adam, Abe Santima in third position. Luke Whitehead still chasing down Abe Santima, and you get a feeling that it might be just a matter of time here, as Daniel Gottschalk has to undo all of this onto that Bentley, and you can see really aggressive turning that the Bentley has to do. To be fair, though, is that Stein he's just doing his own thing. He is just staying out the way as best he can. But this might be Christian Venters' best chance on Jimmy Holm. He's got the run on Ascari out the back stretch. But again, this is what I don't understand, is that he's so keen to just pull to the outside here. And that is what allows Jimmy Holm to just kind of drop away. You see a little bit of oversteer there coming through the Parabolica here, and the Ferrari in front just decides that is enough space for him to kind of stretch off into the distance. Side by side then into turn one. It's so close to becoming contact there. Jimmy Holm tries to defend that position there, clampering all over the curbs. Goes Christian Venter. It's a drag race out of turn one then along through the right-hander. What can happen here? Oh, it's still nip and tuck right now, but I think this is going to be Venters. I think he's going to have the inside line for the for the second of the chicanes here. And he fires it in. Beautiful, beautiful move there from Christian Venter. The patience pays off. The determination pays off. And the Genisus Esports driver moves up into P8 at the moment. So it's Genesis drivers in P2, I believe in P5, P6, P7 and P8 as well. But back to your race leader then, George Boothby, getting it uncharacteristically wrong at Ascari, hopping over both of the curbs there and getting away with it. As second place, Tariq Adam, Abe Santima, and just behind him, Luke Whitehead. This is Daniel Gottschalk, bang, into the barrier, jumping over the curb there, and that is very, very unfortunate indeed. And to insult to injury, the virtual marshal there throwing a flag at the car. I'm sure that's what caused all of the damage onto the back of that McLaren. Tariq Adam, then you can see it's a three-car fight for second position, and they're all fairly evenly spaced out there. Tariq Adam with Abe Santima and Luke Whitehead, but you've also got Cody Sherritt. Don't discount him at the moment. He could be making a bit of a charge towards the end just now. As your race leader George Boothby then into the seconds of the chicanes here, coming up to Lesmo 1. 43 minutes left to go here. I just can't see how he is going to get caught up here. It's well, saying that, actually the gap has come down to 3.5 seconds, but again, yeah, I just think that he's got it in the bag at the moment. We'll see if Luke Whitehead can get past at the moment, but yeah, for just now, it's looking pretty much even Stevens. There is Abe Santino though, again onto the back of Tariq Adam, who again goes wide at Ascari here, and as they come down towards Parabolica. It's interesting to see how this is going to unfold. So we've got 42 minutes left to go here to Pello. Obviously Boothby starting to eke out that gap there. We've got a yellow flag for Christian Venter at the exit of Ascari there, but Boothby, 4.3 seconds ahead of Tariq Adam. Adam involved in a fight with Santima and Whitehead here. It just seems like this is kind of every single week that Boothby is able to stretch out this gap within such an early stage of the race here. And I think that Tapello's having a little bit of connection issues. And we'll get him back in as soon as we can. At least it's connection issues, which are a completely different issue to the power issue that Tapello has from time to time. I feel after my little holiday in South Africa last September, I feel kind of luxurious that I can just kind of switch on my electric whenever I like. Got to love it. Although, to be fair, I still do have the old app on my phone, so I do get notified, which is quite funny. It's absolute laziness. I probably should uninstall this comes to push, but yeah, there you go. It's nice. It's like a little memento. It's like I'm still over there, except the lights are kind of on all the time. What can I say? Right, joking aside, if you have just joined us, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome. 40 minutes left to go. Oh my good lord, Tariq Adam, hello. Right, we'll come to that in a second. If you've just joined us, very warm welcome to the Genisus Esports channel. If you want to hit the like button and hit that subscribe, it'd be very, very much appreciated. This is round 10, round 11 even, of the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship here at Monza, where George Boothby is fighting Luke Whitehead and quite a few others in that one, in for the title. And Tariq Adam is one of them. Tariq Adam has now just got a drive-through penalty for exploiting track limits. We saw that happen quite a few times on the exit of Ascari. The pit window is open. Oh my me, that is huge, absolutely huge for the championship. So that will blow things wide open, and essentially now I believe makes it a two-horse race, depending on what can happen with. There we go. That is how he got that penalty, coming across the Scary, and again it's just bumping over that chicane, bumping over the curbs there, and that unsettles the car. That is why he has got a drive-through penalty. Right, let's have a little welfare check. Mr. Tapello, good evening. Are you still with us, my friends?
I'm quarter to bashing everything and going full Hulk in my study, but hopefully I'm back on, and then we can have 40 minutes of uninterrupted broadcasting, because it seems like the race is interesting within itself. So fingers crossed, toes crossed, butts clenched, everything, just wishing for the best at this point.
Well, there's a way to say it's the joys of Christmas and being back with the family. You have to use everyone else's Wi-Fi at this festive period. But, well, yeah, it's been a fantastic race so far. We've already done 20 minutes here. Tariq Adam will get that drive-through penalty. That is a bombshell for the championship. And into the pit lane then comes Tariq Adam after going down to third position, then down into the order as well. So Abe Santima got back up into second place after that excursion. We also see into the pit lane comes Christian Duploy. So it's Christian Fenter and Mutolini that are our first cars to take this pit stop phase nice and early. What we've seen here is that the undercut is very, very powerful. But again, the likes of Boothby, Santima and Whitehead are all staying out there. So Tapello, I mean, 17 minutes left to go in the pit window. It's a fast circuit. Would you be tempted to go earlier, or would you prefer to go later on?
You know what? I think in this kind of race, I'd maximize the first stint, go as long as I possibly can, try and give myself a better opportunity towards the end of the race. You've spoken about how powerful the undercut is, so I think it's trying to create that offset between you and your competitors. So I think I'd stay out. Look, we still got 17 minutes of the pit window. I think I'd push it to like 2-3 minutes left, just to see how much pace I can maintain, and then hopefully how well I can do in the second part of this race. Because I think going early in this kind of race, maybe it's to give you some clear air, but I think that's the wonders of esports racing, is the strategies differ so greatly. You have drivers who look at different points in their races, their strengths, their weaknesses. Do they go early? Do they go late? Personally, I tend to maximize, try and go as long as I can in the first stint, then push throughout the second stint.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'm usually already into the barrier at this point, so it doesn't really matter whether or not I go early or late, because I'm usually gone by this point to the bar, which is what Tariq Adam might be feeling like doing tonight. He's done his drive-through penalty, but he's going to have to come in again to do his pit stop. So at the moment, he is 11 seconds off of 7th position, and realistically, I think he would be a very, very happy person to even get into the top 5 right now. It's a hell of an effort that's required by Tariq Adam And as I said, I mean, I think that blows his prospect of having a good race finish out the window. And on top of that, I think now that means that the championship hopes for Tariq Adam is down the drain as well. Meanwhile, with this man here, George Boothby, now, watching how aggressive he's been taking the circuit, I wouldn't put it past him getting a drive-through for track limits as well. But it's been very difficult watching George because he's just been pushing so hard and so fast, but we've seen him make a couple of mistakes here. And again, for him, you would think maybe leading the championship that he might just want to take things a little bit easier just now.
And I think that's where the mentality of drivers differ. You know, it's always a tricky thing because a lot of guys will tell you that they prefer to attack in order to defend. So they go aggressive on their strategy. They go aggressive in how they race. It doesn't matter that they're leading a championship. They'll still try and maximize every position, every race, every lap. So that's a very different kind of thinking amongst different drivers. But you're right. I think it should be something that's rattling in the back of the mind of George Boothby, of Luke Whitehead, that, you know what, Tariq Adams already got a drive-through penalty for track limits, if they are even seeing that information, because sometimes you can be so single-minded in your approach that you neglect all other information that's currently coming through to you. So maybe he needs to tone down that aggression just a bit. Look, he's got a comfortable lead that's 7.6 seconds ahead of Abe Santima in second place. I think he can afford just to relax, especially in the corners. Don't go too wide. Kind of take them with that conservative nature, because you can be conservative but still maintain a good race pace. So it is a bit of a tricky thing to kind of put your head around, especially when you're someone who's not within the race, because as we all know, it's very easy to commentate on something, but it's a whole different experience to actually be involved in something and to be driving said race and trying to find your way around it, David.
Oh, for sure. And part of you is almost, wanting to put an arm round George Boothby's shoulder and going, chill, bruh. You've got the race in good stand. You've got half an hour left to go here. You may be able to just, wind it off a bit. However, as you were saying, a lot of the drivers, when they decide to, and this is from talking to them afterwards, they say, oh, well, if I decide to kind of ease off or pull back a little bit here, that's when the mistakes happen. That's when the incidents tend to happen, because I'm not driving at 100%. I'm not driving at the best I can do, and that's when the mistakes start to creep in. So it could be a little bit of that as well. Either way, 13 minutes left to go in the pit stop window. Roland Stein coming into the pit lane for the number 19 Bentley just now, so he's at the back of the field. So at the moment, none of the top 10, with the exception of Christian Duploy, has come into pit lane. There we go though. Luke Addison is the first one to blink. He's already made his way in. That's going to allow Jimmy Holm to take that position. He'll jump up into P5 just now. But Addison comes into pit lane as we're watching Mark Musa here in the number 4 BMW. Now, Musa was in a huge fight earlier on with Daniel Gottschalk. Gottschalk then proceeded to get out of that fight and just launch himself into the nearest available barrier, and unfortunately is now towards the rear of the field with a very, very unwell car. Stein comes out of pit lane and makes his way. Sorry, on you go, Dan.
Yeah, no, I was just about to point out actually something you mentioned that stuck with me, in that, for some races, there's a tricky thing that happens, in that some drivers feel comfortable driving at 10/10ths. Like, they struggle if they do 9/10, 7/10ths of their driving capabilities, as we see Daniel Gottschalk coming into the pit lane as well to serve his mandatory pit stop. But I used to be like that as well during my racing, in that I'd struggle to kind of slow down in a race. I'd want to maximize every lap, try and push as far as I can. And that gets tricky the deeper you go into a race, because your tires degrade, you're starting to make mistakes, you're starting to lose that grip, but your mind still says, I need to drive to the maximum available capacity or the maximum available grip of the car. So it can be a very tricky thing to get right, as we see George Boothby coming into the pit lane from first place, Apes and team are continuing on circuit, so does Luke Whitehead. So we're starting to see those strategies we're talking about. Cody Sherritt taking the pit lane as well, going for his mandatory pit stop. So we're seeing that little variation. Is it an extra lap? Is it an extra 2 laps? Because we are spot on bang in the middle of the pit window. So we are seeing some variation amongst the top 5 drivers on how they want to set their race going into this pit window period.
Yeah, we're almost halfway through the penultimate race of the season, and gives us a great chance to look back on the season that we've had. It's been absolutely fantastic as Gottschalk back behind the BMW of Musa. Unfortunately, a lap down, but still he'll enjoy being able to have that fight as Tariq Adam is in 7th position. He's coming in for his pit stop now. George Boothby comes out, your former leader. Yeah, what a fantastic season it has been. Obviously, it's been my first time commentating here on this Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship this year, and it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute privilege, working with Gareth and the rest of the team here, and getting to jump on board alongside yourself, Tapelo, and seeing what a different championship this is. And for the drivers, in terms of week in, week out, they might do lots of different championships, but the idea of this one is that community spirit, that constant sense of bettering yourself, that constant sense of personal improvement and chasing that personal improvement. And that's exactly what this championship is all about. And it's went right down to the wire. It's going to go right down to the wire. I think Luke Whitehead is potentially going to have the sort of frustration tonight that he's not been able to make the inroads that he wanted to catch those points back up. Either way, George Boothby going to score maximum points again tonight here and go into that final round with a healthy. I think he's going to have a 25 to 30 point lead here, Tapelo, going into this final race of the season next week.
Yeah, and I think that becomes the, dare I say, the perfect situation for George Boothby, because if he gets the maximum points in this race, which would be a fantastic performance in and of itself, what it does is it lessens the pressure on his performance next week. So all he has to do, you're looking at a situation where he has to finish in like the top 5 or something like that. I think the guys behind the curtains will do the mathematics for us. As we always say, math runs out at like 8 p.m. But he will be looking at a situation like that where he just has to finish in a comfortable position. There's no longer a pressure to win. There's no longer even the pressure to get a podium in the final race. So this is why it becomes so important in a championship this tight, to maximize every race, to maximize every point that is available to you at any given moment, as we see Jimmy Holm exiting the pit lane after his mandatory pit stop here. So again, David, I've said this as well throughout the season. This was my first season on full comms in an esports championship, so I kind of jumped into the ocean without an expectation, so to speak. I went with the flow. I wanted to see what it was all about, and I met a lot of interesting people. Sharing this stage with you week in, week out has been such a fantastic opportunity, and I've spoken to some friends offline as well, and they could track the improvement that I've had in how I present myself, and same way that we've been able to track the improvement that certain drivers have had on circuit. It's been evident. We've spoken about them week in, week out, how consistent some drivers have gotten to be over the season, the massive improvement we've seen for some drivers. So that's what this championship is all about. We've always spoken about it, the Kaizen principle, the Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement, step by step, which leads to greater outcomes in the future. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what hopefully we're getting right. And I think that is what's keeping us so enthralled in this championship throughout the season, David.
And Tapelo, that is one thing that I completely lost track of. Of course, this is your inaugural season, inaugural championship as a commentator in esports in general, and I've got to say, by this point, completely forgotten about that. You've just taken to it like a proverbial duck to water. So calm, so fluent, so confident with everything that you said here. But going through, is this something that you've enjoyed, Tapelo? Is this something that you would like to take on and work in other championships?
Look, what I always say, and I've said this as well, is that sometimes it's all about the experience. So you don't know how good something is until you get your eyes open to it, until you engage with it properly. And I'll tell you now, if ever there was an opportunity that comes up for me to do this again, whether that's to continue with this championship or to commentate on another championship, it is an opportunity that I will be grasping with both my hands, because it is something I've enjoyed. It's opened a new, dare I say, a new passion for mine. It's been no secret, I've had a podcast in the past. I've spoken a bit on radio about motorsport. So now getting to open a new environment within the motorsport community has been such a godsend, and it's something I've enjoyed so much that I will definitely be on the lookout for any opportunity that comes my way, because I don't think I'm at my peak yet, and I hate saying that, but there's always room for improvement. And in something like this, the only way to improve is to do it more and more, week in, week out. Test yourself, put yourself against the limits, and that's how you get better at what you do.
And that, my friends, is the Kaizen way here at Genisus Esports. I can also hear Daniel Costello, our broadcast producer, frantically adding you to a list to get in touch with you for future opportunities. And I sincerely have had such a wonderful time this season working alongside yourself. It always makes me so proud to see commentators grow and flourish and improve in the same way that the drivers and the championships do at the same way. As we see Roland Stein going into pit lane for a second time, maybe, or he's just decided to pull into pit lane. Oh no, he was just over the right hand side. He was just staying out of the way of all of the drivers. So Stein, McClaney, got shot coming into this championship then. And they have been absolutely fantastic guests. They've just kept themselves to themselves, getting that crucial track experience here, and really not getting involved with anything that has been going on. But let's give you an update on the race itself just now. Everyone's taken their pit stops now with 4 minutes left to go in the pit window. So now 24 minutes left to go here. Luke Whitehead now just 2 seconds off the back of Abe Santima, who is in turn 11 seconds behind George Boothby. So at this point in the race, unless there's an issue with track limits or a moment for George Boothby, 12 seconds, that is, well, there you go, that's a moment for George Boothby. Like I called it, what can I say? That is... It just shows you, though, Tapello, that 11 seconds in the lead there, that it's still not all safe.
And look, there's the curse of the commentator coming back to us in the penultimate round of the season. But yes, you're right, David. You're right in that. Look, no lead is ever safe. And that's why we were talking about, we were speaking about trying maybe to get George Boothby to go a bit slower. But that's why some drivers prefer to push. Every lap is a pseudo qualifying lap. Because of things like that, they do have lapses in concentration, they do make mistakes, so they are trying so hard to make up for those mistakes. But as we've seen, sometimes when you start overdriving these cars, the mistakes become more regular and they become, dare I say, even greater in severity. He got, dare I say, very lucky to just go over the curbs, break the track limits, but not hit the wall. But we've seen it in this championship as well already, where some drivers, they look in a comfortable position, but they make a mistake, they hit the wall, they hit the driver in front, they have damage, and then it's a problem to finish the race, and they just start falling back. So George Boothby will probably be shaken by that incident. Maybe he'll take a lap or two just to get calm himself again, find his rhythm, then try and build that gap and pace up again.
Well, we'll wait and see, because he's coming up to that corner just now as well. But the fight for second place is kind of swaying two different ways there. Abe Santima fighting Luke Whitehead and Cody Sherritt. Sherritt having a little bit of a play with sandcastles in the background there. Luke Harrison wants to get involved as well. Christian Deploy in sixth position. But it's, for me, the story of today is about Tariq Adam and what could have been for that driver there in the ninth place car in that number 3 McLaren. That really has gone from a fairy tale story to a horror story in just a couple of laps and a couple of minutes for Tariq in Genisus Esports. He drops all the way down to 9th place at the moment, although he is just 2 seconds off of Mats Musa in that 8th position, and then potentially maybe even getting up to P7 as well. 20 minutes left to go though. I think that might be the most that he is able to make. Flies over the garden there, and the thing is that Tariq's going to have to be careful with that, because that's the reason he got that drive through in the first place. But again, he's a driver that never says never, never says die, and will absolutely charge here to Pello right until the very end.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that again, right? He's trying to close up the gap. He's trying to salvage whatever he can. You know, he was involved in that top 3 battle, fighting for the championship. The drive-through penalty has definitely thrown his plans out of the water. So he's trying to maximize, but as you're saying, David, in trying to maximize, he is overdriving now, and you start to see mistakes. So I think maybe he himself, you know, once you see the tail lights of the car in front, that gives you that extra oomph to try and push. But maybe he should consider a strategy where he kind of takes another lap or two. Look, he's still got 20 minutes to try and do something, try and get the overtake, try and take about 2-3 laps, find yourself, find your rhythm, just get into that pattern, that rhythm of going around the circuit without making mistakes but still maintaining a fast enough time. Then you can start to attack, because what happens is once you're rattled, nothing just seems to work. Everything just works in a different way. You're pressing the brakes in a different position, you're not hitting your braking points correctly, as we saw him again go a bit wide coming out of Lesmo 2, which it tends to happen, ladies and gentlemen. I've lost many a cars in that corner, but when you're in a situation like Tariq, calmness should be your friend, and that's how you try and get back into this race and salvage whatever kind of result that you can. Look, he's currently in P9, but I know to salvage this he'll be looking at a P7 finish.
Oh, I'm so sorry it makes strange noises in your ear, Tapello, but I've just seen something absolutely monumental that completely throws the championship all over the place. Luke Whitehead, ladies and gentlemen, has just got a drive-through penalty for track limits there from P3. That was your championship contender. He needed to do everything, so that at the moment that is both him and Tariq Adam going to be out of the top 5. I'll be honest, I think that hands the championship on a silver platter to George Boothby right now. This could be huge for the points. Again, I need to go and double check the points that are on offer there as we go through a yellow flag there. That is the number 31 of Daniel Gottschalk coming up, as the number 22 also brings out the yellow flag here. Unbelievable scenes here to fill. That could be a pivotal point for the championship.
It's not over until it's over, and we're starting to see that happen one more time. That is such a shocking turn of events, because we've spoken about just how confident Luke Whitehead has been driving within himself. But I did mention, if he is struggling with a deficit in terms of car performance around the circuit, he will be looking to probably maximize, and with trying to maximize, I've said it again, he will be overdriving, he will be breaking track limits. That is a huge result. And now the pressure, dare I say, as much as this turn of events might be handing the championship to George Boothby, the pressure is on him now to not get himself a drive-through penalty, for him to be consistent and just breathe, because he might be walking away with the championship tonight if all goes well.
Well, so many different permutations. Of course, mathematically, it wouldn't be beyond reach. I don't think so tonight. I'm just looking at the rules. So he was to win the race. That's another 35 points for him. What would be good, actually, is if we could double check the graphic with the points that they had. Luke Whitehead then goes for his drive-through penalty. The graphic of the points of the championship as they went into this round, and we could try and work out the implications for that. But Luke Whitehead then comes out in, I believe, 9th position. So he is just going to be ahead of Tariq Adam just now, or maybe even behind Tariq Adam. In fact, it's let's all look. Where's the number 3 just now? Yeah, he's all the way down behind Tariq. So that's huge. if that is the case there, because I'm just checking the number 19, so 19 of Stain is way there as well. Yeah, so that's the way it is. Perfect. Thank you so much to our broadcast producer for that one. So George Boothby was 13 points ahead just now. So I'm just trying to work out the points between first and 8th place if they were to get them just now. 24 points. Oh my word. 24 points plus 13 is 37. That's it. That would be enough. If George Boothby finishes, I think this is how it would go tonight, because there's 13 points between them, and there would be 24 points given out. The difference between them to George Boothby net gain on that one, that would be enough to crown George Boothby a champion tonight. And I don't think that Tariq Adam or Luke Whitehead, in fact, it's even worse because Tariq's down in 9th. Let's have a look here. Luke Whitehead's in 9th position, so that's 9 points. So the way I say it to Pello, if George Boothby wins tonight, Luke Whitehead must get up into at least P7 right now. Wow.
Yeah, don't say it too loud, because we've seen what's happening tonight. If we speak about something too drastically, something will change. So I hope whatever George Boothby is, he's not hearing what we're saying. He has no idea what we're saying. We're trying to keep it calm. I think we're getting more excited than he probably is. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is racing. That is league racing. These things happen, and there's a thing I think I spoke about in my second broadcast, where as a driver, sometimes you just need to drive your race and let things come to you. And if that's what's happening with George Boothby tonight, he just needs to finish his race. Don't get a penalty, don't do something drastic, just maintain pace. He's got a 12.3 second gap to Ebsen Seema in second. So he's got decent race pace. He's got 14 and a half minutes to go. He could afford to lose a bit of race pace just so to ensure that he's not risking anything. And if he finishes in this position, that is a title, and we will be crowning the championship for the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship tonight, ladies and gentlemen, with a round to go next week. That would be a massive turn of events.
That would be a huge Christmas present, I tell you that, to settle that with just a couple of days to go until Christmas. George Boothby then on the verge of greatness here in rounds 11 here, the penultimate rounds at Monza. 14 minutes left to go. Again, if you've just joined us, very warm welcome to the Genisus Esports YouTube channel. This is what is going on just now, is the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship, the penultimate rounds of the championship that's been going on all for the past couple of months now. It's been an amazing fight that's taken us all over the virtual world here in the Cell Corsa Competizione, and it all boiled down to a 3-car race for the title. George Boothby, Luke Whitehead and Tariq Adam. Tariq Adam and Luke Whitehead succumb to drive-through penalties for exceeding track limits, but it's not out of the woods yet for George Boothby, because we saw a couple of occasions where that car getting very, very close to the edge of the road, in fact causing an accident almost for themselves at the exit of Ascari chicane there. Tariq Adam in 7th position, Luke Whitehead in 9th, and again, points-wise, my calculations are that George Boothby would have, as it stands right now, would have a lead of around about, let me just double check this, around about something like 7 points that he could not be caught over. So it would take him, I think it would take him to about 40 points ahead or 39 points ahead of Luke Whitehead. But again, we'll work that more out towards the end of this race here. It'll be great to hear from the drivers what they've got to say. But here comes Tariq Adam to try and put a halt to things just now. He is onto the back of the homing missile. Jimmy Holm in the number 2 Ferrari has a little look, but it's nothing more than a little optimistic glance around the inside of that final corner there as they went along that back stretch here. But again, George Boothby in the position where he could afford to lose a second every lap. He could afford to absolutely cruise right now. and still be in a great position for this championship. But here comes Tariq Adam, dips a little bit of toe from the car in front of Jimmy Holm, sends it up the inside. Holm has to kind of just let that one go. Tariq Adam takes the position, and Holm tries to get it on the cutback there, but that's never going to work. That was a great move there from Tariq Adam, and you've got to say as well, Jimmy Holm kind of just being okay with wanting to finish the race and hang on to the back of this car here.
Yeah, for sure. Look, that we're currently seeing a very strong comeback from Tariq Adam. You know, despite the disappointment of the drive-through penalty, he's been driving really well after his pit stop. So good to see that overtake. Did it really clean as well. Kind of as textbook as you want to go in terms of overtakes at a circuit like Monza. Stay in the slipstream, get as much toe as possible, pull out in the braking zone, brake a bit later than your opponent, get your marks correct, take the curbs as you should, and drive away as you get on the exit. That's how you do it. That's how it should be. But fairly interesting as well, Jimmy Holm kind of let that happen. It's not worth losing that much time in a race situation as we ride with the focus on George Boothby here. Currently in first place, increasing his gap surprisingly to Ebsen team in second. He's now currently 13.9 seconds, might as well be 14 seconds ahead of Ebsen team in second. So George Boothby still showing incredible race pace. Again, does he know how big the situation has changed around him? I'm not so sure, judging by his pace, but we've spoken about this already during this race. Some drivers feel they're most comfortable when they're driving at a pace like this, where they, dare I say, in mode push every lap, because it just allows them to be in tune with the car and manipulate it. As we see him go wide, touching the sand there. Again, very tricky with track limits and going too wide. He might need to rein that in, because I don't know about you, David, but I'm getting a bit nervous for him now, because it's all looking too good to be true at this point.
I don't understand why he feels that. I mean, at the end of the day, he's just racing. He maybe just doesn't care about the outcome of the championship or of the race. He's just pushing to give the best race performance that he possibly can. But even still, I'd be a little bit hesitant with this. Although, to be fair, you know, it is what it is. It's bloody enjoyable nonetheless. Really, really enjoying what is going on in front of us. Santima, though, that we're watching 14 seconds behind George Boothby right now, 5 seconds up the road from Cody Jarrett. And the one thing that struck me actually here is the fact that for the majority of the field, it's all separated by 3, 4, 5 seconds apart here. Any other race, or we've had it for the past 2 races, and you've had that happening, and we've struggled to find things to talk about. But here, it feels like this race has just been absolutely charged with excitement, despite the gaps, because of the potential, because of what this race means, and essentially also because of the even small little gains for each of the drivers here could have huge impact onto the championship.
Yeah, definitely that. And look, we have these kind of races sometimes in a season where, dare I say, the focus isn't particularly on the racing, but it's on the overall picture, right? So, like you're saying, we've got drivers with 3, 4 second gaps between themselves, but it feels like everything that's happening on circuit is on a knife edge. Is it positive? Is it negative? Will this driver survive this incident? Will this driver survive till the end? So that puts you in a different mindset as a spectator of what can possibly happen on this race circuit. We're so close to the end of the season, so we know how important it is. We know the pressure that these drivers are under just to get a solid result this race, hopefully set themselves up for the next race and how they can improve. But as we look with the focus on Luke Whitehead one more time, not making the kind of inroads that we saw Tariq Adam make after his penalty. So we have seen that it has been an uncharacteristic performance from Luke Whitehead, as we see Reginald Mitileni off circuit again in this race. I think that's his third incident like that where he's run off circuit, but he's running in the back shouldn't really cause that much problems for anyone else. But back to Luke Whitehead, currently looking for the overtake on Musa, but he is not, dare I say, making the inroads that he would like to be, so that he can set up the overtake into the more favorable part of the circuit. For example, the Ratifia chicane turn 1, probably turn 4, which is the De La Roja chicane. Those are the kind of positions where you're looking for that kind of overtake, but he's not making the inroads to probably get them there. We'll see as he goes around the Parabolica curve, heading into the main straight now, if he can get close enough, but he's not making the progress that he wants to make in order to prevent George Boothby from being crowned champion at the end of this race tonight, as we currently have 6 minutes to go, David. Tight race, tight result, exhilarating to say the least.
He absolutely launched it over the Ascari chicane as well. That was awesome to see. But as you said, yeah, Luke Whitehead would have to pull out an absolute miracle to make this work at the moment, because as it stands, ladies and gentlemen, as it stands, he would need to have a ton of points to actually make this happen here. And unfortunately, there's nothing that he could do, barring George Boothby actually retiring from the race, to keep this one in check. As it stands then, with the drivers in their current positions, the points would be George Boothby would get 299 points, Luke Whitehead would have 260, and Tariq Adam would have 251, with a maximum of 35 points in the final round. That means George Boothby would be 39 points ahead, as side by side then Luke Whitehead goes alongside Musa. Then this is the rundown to the second of the chicanes here. This is the rundown to Ascari, excuse me. Gets that position done and dusted, onto the brakes there, launches the car over, and again that is a great overtake there on Moat Musa for that 8th position. But unfortunately, all that's going to do is just get a couple of more points there. So that's 2 more points, and that eases the burden slightly, but it's still not enough. As round the final corner, round the Parabolica, and now one thing that I was hearing about is, do they have a drop round? That is a very, very good point. I'll have to go and double check that. But I think that's if that was the points coming into this final round, it's safe to say both of these drivers have missed a round, I believe. So I think that that would have taken up their drop point. So it's pretty much it is what it is, and I'm sure you can't take your drop score as your final score of the season as well. We'll find that out. But Tapello, 4 minutes left to go here. Either way, I mean, it's not an enviable position to be in, but either way, George Boothby has. It's been another masterclass, hasn't it? 15 seconds to the good here, and no one's even looked close.
And yeah, with all respect to George Boothby, he's been very impressive in this race. He's pulling a Luke Whitehead. This is what we've seen Luke Whitehead do to the rest of the grid in the previous races. So for George Boothby to kind of switch on that quickly, to get everything working for him, this is a very impressive performance, ladies and gentlemen. And oftentimes the challenge for a commentary team, and I think David will tell you this as well, is to convey the kind of pressure that a driver will be in or under to get this kind of performance. That it is very difficult to convey that to someone who's not partaking in a race, and not experiencing what the drivers are experiencing. But one thing I will tell you, for a driver who has been so consistent, so impressive like George Boothby has throughout the season, I know from personal experience, in these kind of moments where you're looking at the clock, you see you've got 2 minutes 49 seconds to go, you start to do the math, right? How many laps can I get in? What's my pace? How fast do I need to go? Where can I relax? Where can I give off some time? You start doing the math, and that's what separates the good drivers from the really great drivers, is that the great drivers never take a day off. Even as everything looks as positive it does for George Boothby, he's got a very good gap to second place. There's 2 minutes left in the race, but he will probably be doing the math of what he can do just to avoid any hint of risk, to make everything 100% in his corner. And that's what he's doing now. The great drivers do that math with this little to go in the race.
Yeah, 100%. I could not agree any more with you, Tapello. And again, it's you come down to this point in the season and it's a whole case of shoulda, woulda, coulda. Drivers should have done something differently, could have done something differently, would have done something differently if they'd been given the chance. But what a fantastic championship this has been and is still being. We've got that final round coming up next week at Watkins Glen, but just really, really enjoying this. So we did clarify that the drivers have had a drop week. Both George and Luke have already used that drop week. Both of them were off for the streamers event in round 7, I believe it was, but then Luke also scored no points on round 9, so either way they have already used that joker, apart from George. So actually that would be even, George has used that, excuse me. So either way, that is as it stands at the moment. So yeah, it's heartbreak for Luke Whitehead, but with a final minute to go, we are going to be, I believe, on the final lap of the race then, as Jimmy Holm is onto the back of Luke Whitehead here just now. It's a case of whether George Boothby can get across the line. He could actually well do that. I think he's got about 30 seconds to get across the line here. Our broadcast producer saying he definitely will. I'm just trying to inject a little bit of excitement here in the final minute of this one here. I wasn't really, but I've got to cover my trail somehow, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an absolutely awesome race we've had here. Genisus OG saying interesting turn of events and such a pity that Adam got that drive-through penalty. It absolutely was. We didn't want to see Luke with it either, but you get the feeling that if Jimmy Holm can get this position back from Luke Whitehead, who is on a charge, actually hold the phones, he's up to P7, that changes everything, and I'll tell you why. Right, Tapello, I'm going to let you take the final lap of the race just now with George Boothby just for a sec while I go and do some frantic calculations here.
Most definitely. Ladies and gentlemen, as we see George Boothby going out of the Ratifilio chicane, going around Curva Grande, just needs to be calm going down into this final lap. As you've heard from commentary, my best friend of the moment, David Christie, taking the responsibility upon himself to do the mathematics and figure out whether we are crowning a champion for this season, or whether we still have to wait for one more race, as we've seen Luke Whitehead improve his position into 7th position. We're doing hectic mathematics, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not the most comfortable thing to do when your adrenaline is so high and you're trying to focus on the race. I'll tell you that for nothing. But as we still focus on George Boothby, a brilliant performance, ladies and gentlemen, in this round for George Boothby. Qualified really well, qualified in pole position, started the race exceptionally well, looked under pressure from Abe Santima going into turn 1 on the first lap, but he managed that brilliantly, started to pull away, and it's been dominant boss laps, quali laps from him, lap after lap after lap. As you can see as well, he's got the purple indicator against his name, which means he's also had the fastest lap of this race, just to further emphasize how good he has been as he rounds the final corner, the Curva Parabolica of Monza in round 11 of the Kaizen Esports, the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, it is George Boothby across the line to take the win, and hopefully, we're not going to say it yet, but hopefully that is a championship for him as he moves his car side to side to show his glee and celebration. But I think I'm hearing in my ears, ladies and gentlemen, that we might still be going on to next week to finally crown a champion for this championship, as we see Abe Santima, a brilliant result, coming home in 2nd place. I think that is his best finish of the season so far. Brilliant drive from him, understated but massively well done, as Cody Sherritt crosses the line in 3rd position. Again, another brilliant performance, went under the radar because of the focus on Tariq Adam and Luke Whitehead, as Luke Edison crosses the finish line as well to finish in 4th place. Another brilliant drive from him. Christian Duploy finishes in 5th position in this race. Tariq Adam, rather disappointingly for him and Luke Whitehead, as they finish 6th and 7th in this race, all down to penalties. They got drive-through penalties because of track limit violations, as we see Luke Whitehead showing his frustrations, trying to murder his all-black Lamborghini Huracan GT3, showing his displeasure at the finish of this race, as we focus on Christian Venter as he rounds out the Parabolica curve for the last time in this race, ladies and gentlemen. Round the Parabolica curve, keeping it within the white lines and going over to finish in 9th position for this race. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the race, and what a fantastic race we have seen. Drama galore, as we had track limit drive-through penalties due to track limit violations. We had George Boothby maintaining his cool, driving like a Max Verstappen in 2023. If you're not a Formula One fan, just go Google what Max Verstappen was able to achieve this season, ladies and gentlemen. Measured driving, a fantastic race. Unfortunately, I had some problems earlier on today, but all's well that ends well. I was here for the critical points of this race, ladies and gentlemen. What a championship we are having, and it seems like, as confirmed in my ear by my producer, ladies and gentlemen, the championship is not tied up tonight for George Boothby. He will have to push one more time as we close out the season next week at Watkins Glen. A very interesting circuit, and let's finally have a chat with our race winner and almost our championship winner. He's thereabout. Mr. Boothby, sir, tell us about this race today.
Hey, yeah, I don't know actually if that gives me the championship or not with Luke's drive-through, so I got to find out, but either way, it makes next week a hell of a lot easier, hopefully, a little less pressure.
It doesn't, George. Sorry, David
Does
here,
it?
just to jump in. It doesn't, unfortunately. He just did enough by the skin of his teeth. Luke got 7th. Gives him 264 points. You're on 299, I believe, which takes that right to the cusp of mathematical possibility. 35 points between you and him going into that final
Let's go!
Tapello, back to you, my man.
Oh, that is fantastic. That is fantastic. As we have been mentioning in commentary all throughout this race, it was so difficult to keep pace because of the track limit penalties coming in. So tell us, how do you keep your cool in a situation like that where you've got, we spoke about this as well, you had such a big gap over Apes and Team in second. I think at a point you were sitting at around 12 seconds, and we could see you go wide in some of the corners. How are you acting in that situation? How are you feeling as you have that such a gap? Do you think you should slow down, or should you push for more and make your gap bigger?
I mean, this car's quite weird because it's extremely fast here. Like, it's probably the quickest car in the game here. But to get a lot of that speed, there's some weird stuff you have to do with like the curbs, especially in Ascari. And it's quite literally, you've got about 5 inches to play with, maybe. And if you're not on the perfect line, you, boom, you hit the curb and you bounce. So it's like, you gain time doing it, but there's a risk. So I think that's why maybe there was quite a gap in quali, because I've done a lot of practice with it, and I sort of know how to take it to, get it most times. There was one moment in that race where I did it wrong and a little bit hairy, but it's worth it if you can do it consistently, and it's just very difficult to do that. So throughout the race, I'm like, it gets to a point when the gap grows, I'm like, should I, stop doing it and do like a more traditional line? But if you do that, obviously you go a bit slower, and also it's like, I don't know, it like throws you off rhythm if you're thinking you have to do like a different line one lap, a different line another lap. So I just thought, I'm just going to send it every lap, see what happens, and hopefully we come out alive. And like I say, there was one lap where I exploded, and it was scary. I lost a few seconds, but it's a risk you take, I guess. And thankfully we had that gap to just recover and come back on the track. And yeah, I love Monza, and I love it in this car. And I'm glad I could get the result. I'm really glad I could get the result. And yeah, the championship, I'm super happy. Fair play to Luke, obviously, because this track doesn't favor the Lambo too well. And also, obviously, he's missed a round as well. So I think without that, we'd be tied on points going into the final. That'd be pretty epic. But he's a quick guy. He's awesome, and maybe he can still try and get P2.
Yeah, look, for sure. I'll just say this, I'll rather be praised for it. I love that you gave us such an entertaining race. I hate that you made our heart rates go up as you launched those curbs, because Foot and mouth syndrome was killing the commentary team. But congratulations on the championship. Congratulations on a fantastic result today. I think that's the best I've seen you drive this season, Mr. Boothby. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Enjoy your evening. Well done once more.
Thank you all so much, guys, and really happy with the championship. I'm ready for the next one. If you put another one on, I'll definitely be here. So,
fantastic. I think we should have Abe Santima coming up for his interview, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, just as we were closing out the race, that is his best finish so far this season. David Christie, how are you feeling so far as we wait for Abe Santima to join us for his interview?
He didn't have long to wait. Absolutely
I see.
Awesome. Yeah, he's right there. But look, it was great to hear from George. Great to hear that he's a little bit devastated that he didn't win it tonight. It goes on to that final round. But realistically, I mean, look, he's got to have an absolute nightmare next time out. I can't see that happening.
Yeah, look, that's going to be a difficult one to call. But as we've seen today, a few upsets can be coming in. Mr. Santima, sir, brilliantly done today. P2 across the line. How are you feeling with that result?
Well, I think I just got really lucky this race with, Adam got a drive-through and Whitehead also got a drive-through. But nonetheless, it's still a really good result for me. So I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, look, they say race is race, and sometimes the race comes to you if you're doing well. I think that was a brilliant race we've seen from you. How are you feeling going into the next round? We have Watkins Glen. Is that a circuit that you feel you will do well under? Is that a bogey track for you? How does it feel? Are you confident heading into that round?
I honestly have no clue, and I'll know when I start to practice for the race, but I'll definitely try to get a good result once again.
I love that response. You have no idea, as we don't either. We're just commentating on what we're seeing. But is there anyone you want to thank? Maybe a team, because you've had such a brilliant performance. I think this is your best finish this season. Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I guess I'm gonna say hi to my mom again. I don't really have. No.
I'll tell you what. I'll probably do a shout out to my mom as well. They love that kind of stuff. But congratulations again, Abe. Fantastically well driven. Look, luck doesn't matter whether you win by an inch or a mile. The race came to you. You did brilliantly well to be in that position. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, one more interview to go. P3 across the finish line. We will be waiting for Cody Sharrett to join us. A fantastic result. Mr. Sharrett, sir, how are you feeling after that? Another podium for you this season, P3 around Monza. That must put a smile on your face.
Yeah, it's a good result for me in terms of points and standings in the championship. Obviously got lucky with the 2 drive-throughs with the drivers ahead. But yeah, I just stuck to my plan and all worked out in the end.
Look, unfortunately, that's racing on their part, and you were there to pick up the scraps of what comes your way. I've asked this already to drivers, but how are you feeling? You know, we've had 11 rounds this season, one more round to go at Watkins Glen next week. How are you feeling about this championship and this season as a whole from your own perspective as a driver?
Yeah, I think the racing has been very good between us. There hasn't been much incidents, a lot of clean racing. And obviously going into the last round, Watkins is one of my strongest tracks, so I'm hoping that I can get another podium and try jump Luke in the team championship.
Oh, fantastic. I hear you saying you want to jump Luke in the team championship. So that means you have a goal for next week. You've got your sights set on a particular challenge. But once again, that was a brilliant race. Look, I've said it and I'll say it again. It doesn't matter who gets a penalty. As long as you keep it clean, you keep it between the white lines. That's how you step up. Brilliant performance. Last but not least, would you like to get a shout out to anyone on your team member or your moms? Because moms have become very popular in this championship this season.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank my family watching, all the viewers watching, and to Genesis Risk for creating the series and supporting the team.
Fantastic. Well done. Congratulations again. P3 in this race. Looking forward to see what you want to do, what you will be preparing to do in the last race of the season next week as we head to Watkins Glen. Thank you so much, Cody Sherritt. And finally, David Christie, my friend, I think you've been too quiet. Let us know your thoughts for the viewers at home.
My friend Tapello, firstly, not only did you absolutely boss that final lap, but those interviews were absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for taking that tail end to the race here. I've not been feeling 100%, a little bit of man flu, a little bit of actually coming down with something, not too sure. But my God, did that give me some energy? Did that give me some life back into me tonight? Totally here for it. An amazing penultimate round at Monza. The championship hangs by the tiniest of threads. Literally, it is just a mathematical possibility now that Luke Whitehead can take this final round going into the next one. Absolutely loving it. It is so poised delicately going into Watkins Glen. I've loved every single minute to Pello, and I'm pretty sure you have as well. Thank you so much for joining me here in the commentary box here tonight. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen at home, for joining us here on the Genisus Esports channel as well. Join us next week for the grand finale, the season finale of the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship from Watkins Glen. Same time, same place here on the Genisus Esports channel. My name has been David Christie. Joining me in the booth has been the wonderful legend that has been Tapello Marioli. A huge thank you to all of the team at Genisus Esports and Genesis Risk for their support as always, and to Daniel Costello for the broadcast. But that's it. We will see you next time, and have a wonderful Christmas, and we'll see you on the 27th of December.